Hi, it's Peter Webster here. I'm one of the instructors in the MUE 6399 Creative Thinking and Music class. And on behalf of my colleagues who are section leaders, welcome. And this is designed to give you kind of an overview of the class and to help you get started in orienting yourself in terms of time management and that sort of thing. It's quite a busy class, a lot of things on the class, all very good, but it does require you to sort of be thoughtful about the way the class is designed. Well, by now you're probably familiar with the course syllabus and maybe even poked around Module 1 a little bit and even the rest of the class, and you're starting to get ready to work. And since you're watching this video, my guess is that you've gone through a little bit of Module 1 and you have an idea of what's happening. So let me say to you that at the beginning of every module there'll be a little clip like this. It won't be a video, it'll be an audio clip that will sort of introduce you to the week's work. And this particular video is just to give you a more macro overview of how things will have worked. So by now you're probably pretty familiar with Canvas. On the left-hand side you have that navigation menu, which is sometimes called a tab set, that you can click on. And the buttons there that are particularly interesting to me are Home, which brings you to the splash page of the course. I use the Discussion tab and Quizzes tab and Rubrics, Zoom, and something called Course Reserves, which I'll talk about in a minute. That may not be there, but will be by the time you get to the end of this discussion or this talk. I want to first start by saying that the modules have the same kind of design. It has that sort of standard set of buttons on the left, but then every module itself is designed the same way. There is a Start Here section that begins the modules, and you need to have watched that. In the Start Here, there's actually a introduction to the various rationales of the class, and then also the very good webinar that the faculty did a little while ago on the topic of creativity and thinking in music and teaching. So I think you'll find those useful, and you need to do those and go through them before you do anything on the modules. But once you get to the modules, you have those tabs, and then you have the design of the module itself. So let me sort of go through the way that's set up. The first module, all modules have a learning objectives section, and that contains all the things you should be able to do when you have done the work for that particular module. And that's paired with the to-do section, which is next, which is a very explicit description of every week about the requirements that are there. Each of those sections have links in them that allow you to move around and look at the various portions of the class. So you'll be encouraged to follow those. And then coming next is the instructional materials, which include the links to videos and then a list of the readings that are there. And that's followed by a supplementary reading always that is there for you if you have time to. A word about the readings. We're in a little bit of transition here for this class. In the past with using Canvas, you probably are used to seeing a title of a reading, and you'll still see that, and a link that you click on to download it. That usually downloaded the file from Canvas itself, but this course is going to use the course reserves in the library. And I'll be sending you a email about that, and because we're still working out the details of it. But the point there is that to get to the readings, you need to go to the course tab on the left called course readings and course library access, and then you'll be able to see a list of the readings that are available, and from there you'll render them from the library. Again, I'll send you more information about that maybe at the beginning of the week, probably Monday midday, so that you'll have a chance to see how that functions, so you can get a chance to look at the readings rendered to you in that respect. Now, a little bit about the assignments, and if you want to reveal the Module 1 and look at it now, you might be able to follow along with me here and see how the things work. There are some very special things we have you do in Module 1. One is to introduce yourself using the discussion board, and that's pretty self-explanatory. And you'll do that right away, say something about yourself, post it, and come back to it and read about your colleagues that you might like to get to know in your section. And then secondly is the little email that you'll get from each of the instructors to you about setting up a personal meeting at the beginning of the week. This is something we do in these classes, that we will go over any questions that you have and get to know you a little bit better. And if you've done your introduction to yourself, that would be good to have been done before you actually get online and talk to your instructor, and that way we can get to know you a little bit. We'd like you to take advantage of the fact that the instructors are available for you. It isn't like you're on your own for the rest of the 6 weeks or 8 weeks. We'd like to help you out as best we can, and you'll be learning about that when you talk to them. But then when you move down further, you'll see a collection of assignments that are pretty standard across all the modules. The first one that you'll see is a discussion board for a single article, and that's something that we have featured for everybody to respond to, and you can read everybody else's response. And so if you can do that early on in the week, that would be good, because maybe by Wednesday, if you can get that finished, because we'd like to have there a core article that everybody has seen. In this case, it's the Webster and Hickey, or Hickey and Webster article that starts off the first one of those, and that kind of goes with the topic of the first steps for this class. Then there is a set of written reflections on a set of articles. We provide you with 3, sometimes 2, sometimes 4 articles that you can scan that are related to the topic that interests you the most. And you'll want to choose one of those and do a more detailed response to that. And so there's directions on how to do that. There's one of those every week. As choose from the collection of things that you want to choose from. So there's that. There's a quiz. Every week, including week 8, which is a short week, only 3 days, there is a quiz. And the quiz is based on the Sawyer readings, and it prompts me to talk a little bit about Sawyer's book. It's the best I've read on the topic. Generally, it talks about explaining the history of research on creativity in psychology and sociology, and then deals with how its applications today to the various disciplines. And there's chapters on not only music, but lots of other fields as well. I think you'll enjoy that book. It has selected readings during the class that's been chosen to specifically deal with the topic that's involved. And you should know that Sawyer himself is kind of a musician. He got his degree at the University of Chicago, was involved in Second City improvisation, was a jazz pianist where he played in that, and went on to do his work in sociology and educational leadership and that sort of thing. So he is very familiar with music and uses it a great deal in his writings, including talking about improvisation and teaching, which he feels passionate about. Well, I'll talk to you a little bit more about that as time goes on. There's even a little reading, a supplementary reading that talks about that. So the book is important. It gives you focus, and it prepares you to do the quiz. The quiz is 30 minutes. It's timed, so you need a 30 minutes space of time for you to work. And then you need to engineer that into your life, and you have the open book to deal with. You can't not read and do it in 30 minutes. You have to have read the material, but the book is there to prompt you if you wanted to touch up your understanding of something. And then you submit that. Don't be too obsessed about the quiz. It's very important to do, but there are other things in the course. But we just want you to be sure you are held accountable for doing the readings, which are very, very important foundation for the particular unit that you're actually doing. So there's that. And then following that, there are two. There's something called U and MEs. So MEs, don't forget, are the musical experiences. There are 4 of them in our art. That's composition, improvisation, the performance of music of others, and creative listening. So all of those have dimensions of creativity associated with them that don't always be thought of exactly that way. For instance, in music performance of others, we actually don't talk much about the creativeness that goes into doing that, where we challenge our students to be able to think about the music a little bit more while they're performing, while they're rehearsing, that kind of thing. So there's an art to that, and a real way of dealing pedagogically with opening yourself up as a leader to feel like you're welcoming the students in to understanding the construction of the music and the way it works and how that would feel if maybe we played this faster or slower, or why did the composer do something like this. So there's a whole world of scholarship about creative music performance of others. Then the other ones are composition, improvisation, and then creative listening. All of which are not always taught very well on the undergraduate in terms of getting you involved in the pedagogy of doing that. So the U and Me's, U and ME's, apostrophe S, are designed to give you all experiences in doing that across those 4 ME's. So those will occur at various times in the course and get you involved in a little composition, a little improvisation, a little creative listening, thinking, and then also a little pedagogy about performance. But more than that, you're going to do something called the Creative Musicianship Development Project, which has been a real staple of this class all along. And that project engages you to choose in depth to study one of those MEs and to become much more familiar with it. And you should choose one that you're perhaps not as familiar with as you might with the others. So if you've not done much improvisation, choose that one. If you've not done much composition, choose that one. Or if you've never thought about doing creative work from the podium in terms of creative, choose that one. So choose ones that creative listening. If you have not done much with that, choose that one. So you can have your own way of developing your own personal ability in those areas throughout the class. So during the first week, we don't have you do anything except read the requirements. And you need to read those carefully. Think time, incubation is an important concept in creativity, so incubate about it. And then starting with week 2, with the certainly the musicianship development project, you need to do a plan. So that's at the end of week 2, you need to have that in place. At the end of week 3, you have the other project, which is one that deals with developing a unit of instruction using all the things that you have been thinking about and experiencing during the class. That's the second major project that you have to do. So 2 of those projects have to be read about and explained during the first week, so you think about them and then plan them and start to do the work on it. So as I say, it's important to become aware of those 2 continuing projects. That curriculum project is due actually at the last day of class. The development project, where you actually do a little video and produce something that we all see and we can understand what you've been doing in your journals and so forth, that's due at the end of the 7th week. So again, you'll see all of that in the class, but I want you to be aware of what those are at the beginning. A little bit further information, there are guests. There are 4 of them that will come starting around Module 4. And these will be guests that will appear Wednesday night from 7 to 8:30 Eastern Standard Time through Zoom. And they'll be entertaining to watch. There's little readings that we have that you can do to read their work, and a small reflection paper that you need to write. Now, we know that all of you can't come on Wednesday at 7. There may be standard commitments that you have, but we hope you all will. And you'll need to write a small little reaction to those 4 people. So you'll see them clearly demonstrated in the course, and you'll be reminded of those guests. A special feature, I think, for you in this particular course. And finally, workflow. I wanted to make sure you have in your mind a way in which to deal all of this stuff. You know, the course is opened early, a day early on Sunday, so you're using that as a kind of a pivot day between finishing one week's work and then starting another's. You have that available, but then you need to be sure you do things in a particular order. I suggest doing the readings and videos first, and then doing the reflection on the one article by Wednesday's discussion board that will have you do something with that, and then proceed with the others timed in ways that are consistent with your schedule. So I would think about that, how you engineer. You know, certain days you're going to be busier than others. Certain evenings are going to be freer, and you can decide to do the journaling work on that. So I would set yourself up for success by doing through the workflow and going through things like that. Well, okay, that's a nice overview of the class. Please reach out to me if you need to. You're going to hear from me if you're in my section, and you're going to also hear from me with respect to the course reserves. where you'll have access to the readings. So long. I'm looking forward to getting to know all of you.